Hello, I'm Nick Barton. I'm a member of academic staff in the School of Archaeology and a tutorial fellow in archaeology at Hartford College.
Hello, I'm a final student. Well, I've just finished my finals, and so I've been at Hartford for 3 years studying archaeology and anthropology.
Yeah, thank you, Rosie. So just briefly to introduce the subject, archaeology and anthropology, or Arch and Anth as we often refer to it, is not something you're normally taught at school. So we don't assume any prior knowledge in our students when they arrive here. And you may not have read very much about anthropology, but it concerns mainly living peoples, and you will be able to learn how and why societies structure their families, their economies and political systems in the ways that they do. So at Oxford, we teach, or the two disciplines are taught side by side in a way that emphasizes the connections between them, particularly from the point of view of the diversity of human culture, the human cultural experience throughout space and time. And I should say that there are only relatively few universities that teach Arch and Anth jointly, and in most, if not all, after the first year, you are you have to specialize in either archaeology or anthropology. So in contrast at Oxford, though, if you wish, you can study both in equal measure throughout your 3 years here. The course structure is very flexible and allows you to do this by picking and choosing amongst a menu of option courses. And on the other hand, if you prefer and you want to specialize in one or other, you can do so, again, via the selected option courses in your second and third years, and by choosing to write your dissertation on one or other subject. So that's why we feel the Oxford course offers something rather special and unique. But what would you say, Rosie, as someone who's recently finished here?
Yeah, I think it's just the variety of things that you study. Like, you will never really get bored, and it's just such a broad subject matter. So you might be writing an essay on gender, and then you'll be going on to write an essay on ancient Mesopotamia, and it brings in so many different subjects and disciplines. So like, it doesn't really matter what you study at A levels. Like, we don't ask for set subjects, which I think is quite nice, because you get so many different people studying it, and they're all really interesting in their own way.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Well, before we go on to say a bit more about the course itself, I guess people would like to know the reason for choosing Hartford. So Rosie, putting you on the spot again, so why did you want to come to Hartford?
I think the main thing for me really was the fact it has a really high state school intake, and its access is really good. Like, I myself came from a state school, so applying to Oxford was really quite daunting. And just the friendliness and the atmosphere at Hartford when I went on the open day. I mean, unfortunately, you won't maybe get to see Hartford before you apply, but it was just so friendly compared to the other colleges. You instantly felt welcome. It's right in the centre. You have access to so many different books and libraries. So like the librarian Alice is so helpful. You don't have to, I've never had to pay for any books on my entire course, and books can be really expensive. So although you might think Oxford sounds quite posh and expensive, it actually is not, because you have so many books available for free. So yeah.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. That's good. Yes, and I think Hartford, it really has a reputation, as Rosie's saying, for being friendly, progressive, and inclusive. And we seek, of course, to attract applicants of the highest academic ability and potential, but it really is regardless of their background. We're just really not interested, frankly, in your background. So I just wonder now whether we could say a little bit about the course. I mean, you can read about this more extensively on the website, but how would you describe the course in a typical week, Rosie?
So I suppose the biggest divide really is you get tutorials and then you get lectures. And lectures you get at most universities. You sit in a hall or a room, and then someone talks at you, and you write notes and then go away and perhaps read a bit more on it. But I think Oxford is really, like, its key selling point is the tutorials. So you get a reading list at the beginning of the week, and you choose what you want to read off it. You go and get the books, read them, take notes, and then write an essay. And then you hand the essay in, and then you get like an hour or two to discuss it with another person, and a senior member of staff or a tutor. And I think that's just a really good point, because it means that you're never too far away from seeing a member of staff that can help you. So if you've struggled on that essay for a week, it doesn't really matter, because you have an hour to then talk about it. You're not going to be stuck going, oh my god, this is awful, for like the entire term. They're always there.
Yeah.
So and it changes, so you get on average about 3 essays over 2 weeks to write. So if you don't like one essay, it's over quite quickly and you can move on to the next one. So yeah, the pace of learning is quite quick, but you also get a lot of contact with one-on-one or two-on-one with a tutor.
Yeah, I think that's an important selling point, certainly for Oxford, is we have this wonderful opportunity to be able to teach you in very, very small tutorial groups, which I think is a huge benefit, really. And we should also say that apart from lectures which you attend, that in your first year you're obliged to complete at least 4 weeks of approved field work, usually undertaken in the long vacation of your first year. And really you can do anything that you agree, with your college tutor, anything from, say, a museum internship, maybe anthropological or archaeological field work. And we'll help make suggestions for you to choose from. And we're very lucky at Hartford, in fact, because one of our tutors runs an excavation in Pompeii, which is exclusively offered to our students. So you can spend part of your field work in Italy. And this is, of course, in this case, is what you did, Rosie. So can you say anything about the experience?
Well, it was just like the best time of my life. It was so cool. It was just amazing to I'd been to Pompeii once before with my school, but to see it from a different perspective, like actually dig there, was like such a privilege. And it was really good because you worked with students from Germany. So you got to see how different countries, different universities did things. And everyone was so caring and so supportive. It was just like amazing. And Pompeii is just such a cool site and such an important site as well. So to be part of that, really, it was like a really wow moment for me, I think. I woke up every day, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here.
No, you're jolly lucky, I must admit. And Marc Robinson is the person who takes our students off, is extremely experienced, having worked there for over 20 years. And everybody who comes back, just absolutely adores the site and the opportunity of working there with him. I should add that although the degree course is mainly assessed on written exams in the third year, there is in fact some course assessed work. This is in the form of a 15,000 word dissertation. It's an independent piece of research written over the second summer of the degree, or most of it is anyway, and for which you will be assigned a supervisor to discuss and read early drafts of the work. And we're currently reviewing other ways to introduce more assessment into the course. Rosie, should we say something about the application process? So I'll just say that, first of all, of course, it is a selective process. We have minimum requirements of 3 A's at A level, or the equivalent in the International Baccalaureate and or Scottish Highers. And of course, as Rosie has pointed out, it really doesn't matter to a certain extent what A levels you take, arts, humanities, or sciences. I mean, we don't really mind at all what you do. Just a matter of interest, Rosie, what A levels did you end up studying?
So I did an AS in English literature, and then I did French, biology, and ancient history.
Yeah, so quite an interesting mix of things, but you know, one could sort of say any combination of science or art subjects is perfectly fine. So just the actual process itself, you will normally submit your UCAS form in October. On it, you have to select a college of first choice. I suppose one of the most important things in that or on the UCAS form is preparing your personal statement. And it's a question we're very often asked by people on open days. You know, how do we prepare for a personal statement? And I would say the best advice is that you need to emphasize your interests and experience, perhaps beyond A levels. You needn't have any experience, of course, in archaeology and anthropology, but obviously if you could mention any books you've read, perhaps on the subject, or museums you've visited, any kind of relevant travel, obviously not holidays on the beach, unless, of course, you're looking for archaeological sites, and that goes down as a big plus. And is there anything else you could say about the personal statement, would you say, Rosie?
Yeah, I think it's often like especially by my college, it was like made to be this like really, really big thing, which of course like it is an important thing to get right, but don't panic about it. Like I recently had to write another personal statement, and yeah, I realized that I didn't need to write 6 different drafts for my first personal statement probably. It's quite a small amount of words / lines / characters, whatever. So I think the important thing is for Oxford and like the top universities, they want to see how you think and how you are how you engage in your subject and how you're interested in it. Like I don't think anyway you have to read thousands and thousands of books on archaeology and anthropology. It's just picking a few that you like were really interested in, and basically just writing your opinion. And I think that's what they look for, especially.
That sounds absolutely right. And in addition to that, you submit essays. These are 2 recently marked pieces of work as part of your school or college course, and of course marked by your teacher. The subject itself doesn't really matter, but we prefer essays that are written over a relatively short period of time rather than, say, school projects piled over many months, you know. But that's something which you know, if you can only send us a project, obviously we'll read it. So I think sorry, and the other thing I forgot to mention is that we ask for a 500-word short essay, and that is on a subject which is, you know, what can we learn about people past and present from their material culture. So you know, this is an extra bit of information that we need, that we find useful, just to see what ideas you've come up with. You could maybe expand on some of the things that you've written in your personal statement. Maybe you haven't had, you know, there's not enough room to say, to add little bits, which of course you can put into your 500-word essay. Do you think that sort of covers the actual application itself?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the 500-word essay sounds really, really scary. Because obviously it's such a massive question. Like you could write a book on that or several books, but I think the important thing is you don't have to write about everything. I tried to do that, and obviously it went over 500 words.
I did.
Which is not surprising knowing me. But yeah, so just pick out points that you are really interested in or you think are quite cool, and expand on them. So don't feel like you have to like include everything under the sun that is related to material culture, past and present.
And although this isn't marked, but we just find it very useful when it comes to the interview process. So we've got something that we can talk to you about. That's the the main thing. So actually this brings us very neatly on to the Oxford interview itself. So I should say that if you're selected for interview, and in fact about 80% of applicants are interviewed in Oxford, you'll be looked at, of course, by your first class college, and your first choice college, sorry, and will also be interviewed by a second college, which we select at a departmental level. So in other words, you'll be interviewed by 2 colleges. I'll say a little bit about the structure of the interview. It normally begins with a short passage. The interviews last for about half an hour, by the way. We normally give you a short passage which you prepare beforehand. You read it and we give you some questions on it. It's really just in a way as an icebreaker, just to get the conversation going. We then have a small range of ethnographic and archaeological objects which are on a table, or which we show you, and we ask. It's not necessary for you to know any or all of them at all. I mean, what we would emphasize is that it's not an exam in any way, but it does allow you to demonstrate your breadth of knowledge and interest in archaeology and anthropology. So we are interested in how you look at the objects and how you might make deductions about them. How good you are at thinking on your feet, really. And then the third and final part of the interview consists of questions in which we test some of your knowledge. And this is often based on your personal statement and, say, your essay, perhaps. So we always suggest that you don't make up things to impress us in your personal statement. But Rosie, what can you say, having been through the process yourself? I mean, it is a bit daunting, isn't it? But
yeah, it was very scary.
Sorry.
But no, it was scary because I think everyone at my college especially went, "Oh my God, it's Oxford, it's Oxford." But when I arrived, we had a meeting with you and Marc, the other tutor, beforehand, and that really settled my nerves because it made me realise that you're just nice people and it was all going to be okay, and I wasn't going to get savaged in an interview. I think like some schools do like practice interviews and things, and well, I had that and like one, and I think my teacher just Googled classic Oxford questions to ask an interview, and obviously like they were quite random and really scary. One of them was like, "Do you think you're smart?" And I couldn't answer that obviously, but the questions they ask in the actual interview are only going to be really related to the subject that you want to study, and like the tutors they did with me, like they helped me, they like kind of pointed me in the right direction, and that doesn't mean that they think you're rubbish. It's just they're trying to help you along the process. Like they don't expect you to be at a degree level already. Like that's the point of applying, so you can gain knowledge. It's just to see if you're enthusiastic and interested and passionate, I think, most of all.
Yeah, no, that is really important, that your enthusiasm must come across, because obviously we've only got a limited number of spaces, and we want to give them to the best students, and obviously those who are going to benefit from the course the most. So I think that probably is where we'd like to leave it today. If you feel that we haven't been able to deal with all of your questions, you're free to look at the main university website to see if any of the questions are answered there for you, or if necessary to contact me at Hartford, and you're very welcome to ask questions, and I'll do my best to try and answer them for you. So I guess from Rosie and from me for the time being, thank you very much, and I hope the information that we've given here might be a little useful. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.